Hi everyone, my name is Sarah Beth, and I just finished reading Wellnes by Nathan Hill. This is the book of the month for October of 2023. It was published in September of this year and is about 600 pages long. So, I specifically chose this book as counter programming. It's obviously not the spooky pick of the month. It's more of the romance variety, if you couldn't tell from the cover. And not exactly romance, but literary fiction following Elizabeth and Jack and their relationship throughout the years. Not even throughout the years, because it's mostly just playing out from their initial meeting and their lives in the 20s and their lives in their 40s. And obviously there is events in between to kind of flesh out their relationship and what different actions mean to them and the fights and the resentments that they've harbored over each other throughout the years. I think there is a lot of great things about this novel. I think that themes that it touches upon, such as authenticity, especially considering their jaunt in the 90s through the anti-establishment movement, and the fact that this whole book takes place in Chicago, how that artistic landscape and even the architectural landscape and gentrification that affected the area through the years is really an accented point of this novel. My main concern, though, is the characters never felt real to me. They always felt like a caricature of what people are. For instance, Elizabeth in college had 5 majors. 5 different majors. I don't care how smart you are, colleges cap you off at around 3. And it's due to the amount of credits you can take. And also, no sane person will be able to complete that amount of majors within a reasonable period of time. And based off of the novel, I'm pretty sure she finished within 4 years, which makes it highly unrealistic, especially considering that she met Jack, her romantic interest, the other main character of the novel, met him when she was young, 18 years old, and they spent every moment together. There would be no time for that. I don't care how smart you are. No time for that at all. I do think that the whole interplay that Elizabeth has with her son Toby is really poignant. I think that just the fact that she feels that she's failed her child and she thinks that every single bad habit that he harbors is basically her failure, how she's failed him on teaching him the correct ways of life, and how she researches through all of these medical journals and all of these different psychological trials on how to better change all of these, I would say, bad habits that Toby has, such as he throws a lot of tantrums. He's 8 years old, though. And, he's always been obstinate. And she kind of she unravels because of his bad behavior. And she feels so self-conscious about how he reacts in public because he is a direct reflection of who she is. And she can't seem to get him off of, screens playing Minecraft or watching videos of people playing Minecraft and how he makes videos, he makes reaction videos of other people playing Minecraft, and he has this obsession with the internet and his subscriber base, and she doesn't feel like she can really connect to him. Even to say goodnight to her son, she has to say, "Don't forget to subscribe." And I think one problem also with this novel is the fact that it is written by an older gentleman, not extremely older, but he does go on a rant about algorithms, and I believe he understands that sect of the internet, but when it comes to something going viral, something much more along the lines of Gen Z knowledge, I find the author kind of skirted past that. There was definitely a time in the novel where a character did go viral, but it didn't go into it at all, didn't say how it affected their life, which obviously I don't think it would have a massive effect, but it was just kind of stuck in there in the plot and never referenced again. And I said to myself, well, then what's the point of this? Why was this even brought up? The book is 600 pages long, and it might needn't have not been that long. And I think that there are some beautiful relationships in this novel, but I think maybe due to the time skip between the Elizabeth and Jake's 20s and 40s might have brought up that wall where I could not connect to any of the characters. And also just due to the fact that I think that even their, stories of how they lived with their, how they were scarred by their own parents, I find it a little implausible. Maybe not completely implausible, but there was definitely a mansion with a bat infestation. And I thought to myself, that's something, and it was described quite it was a very detailed description of this, including the bat guano and how it's causing these sagging ceilings and how they're bringing in all these exterminators, and it's basically made their fourth floor uninhabitable and has toxic gases. And I said to myself, nobody with their amount of money would keep this house because Elizabeth comes from a wealthy means and her family owns this mansion that is overrun by bats. And I think that it's just small things like that where you have to say, not really that realistic, especially considering that they had a lot of guests coming to and from that mansion, and they were also always hosting parties and always doing this and that. So to me, it didn't make sense that they would keep something that was such a blemish on their reputation. But I enjoyed it. It was enjoyable. That's the thing. I never didn't want to read this book. I always said I always wanted to read it. I was excited to read it. The pace isn't too slow, too fast. And I think that there's such great themes, such as, the anti-establishment artistry in the 90s, and how, why were you trying to portray nothingness and trying to seem so cool that you couldn't actually create art and be attached to it? And also just the marriage between Elizabeth and Jake. What does it mean to actually be soulmates? Do they still believe they're soulmates 20 years later after going through life? And how resentment between them can build based off of, obviously it's a trite story of what they didn't do and connecting together, and how somebody you believe to have been a certain way in their youth was maybe just covering up portions of themselves that they didn't think, just exuding this exterior that didn't reflect who they were on the inside, just so that they could, fit in or, find their group. Such as Jake, who is Elizabeth, a significant other. He has this huge tattoo, and, he was a big photographer artist, makes art that represents nothing, and he finds out that he's very vanilla. It just comes to him. Everybody basically says, yes, you are always doing what people expect of you. You enjoy the boring things of life. He would enjoy going to a game. He would enjoy hanging out with his son and listening to him laugh and playing around. He's definitely not that edgy person he thought he was when he was younger. And his wife agrees with him. She wants him to spark up his marriage, but she also wants him to leave her alone. You have her husband who's so desperate for her attention, and this woman who loved the fact that he was so entrenched with her and now is becoming, I would say, just very off-put by his attempts to reconcile things and just his devotion to her. She hates that he's devoted to her. She hates the desperation, which hurts, because if you love someone so much and you know for a fact that they just don't want you in their life. And so, it starts with the separate bedrooms that they are trying to make their forever home, and they're having all these disagreements from things that were just bubbling to the surface, because a lot of times people don't want to have an argument, so they'll just let it simmer and leave it. So, like I said, there's a lot to unpack on this novel. It's 600 pages. I personally enjoyed it. That does not mean that it's not without fault. Maybe you'll connect to the characters better. I personally did it. I think that I've mentioned this book several times before. I think a better example of marital strife would be While I Was Away. While I Was Gone by Sue Miller. And I think that it's also quite a bit considerably shorter, but this book would be considered more, I would say, of this time period. I'm not sure exactly when the other book was made, but this one is definitely more indicative of lives we're living now and the effect of each era. So, thanks for watching, and I hope you have a good one.